the Latinos Out Loud podcast. Latinos. Yeah, that's what it is. Latinos Out Loud.
Yo, hello, hi. It's your friend to the end, tu amiguita, Rachel La Loca. Yeah, more locura for you. Here we are in New York City. We're at a very special location. I love when Loca's on location, okay? Hello, it's another episode of Latinos Out Loud. I have so much to tell you. Take a seat. Put the vacuum cleaner down. Shut off anything that's around you because I need your focus right here. I'll give you a second. Okay, so I've been to some amazing events in the last couple of weeks, and I've got to shout them out right now. First, I was nominated to be a part of Latinas Acting Up, which you know them. These are the Latinas that were on the picket lines during the strikes in Hollywood. Well, they're continuing with that momentum, and they're opening up a chapter here in New York City. So I was invited to a cafecito, a little lunch last week. The star power in this room alone, could light up a sky. It was incredible to be in the presence of all this power in Hollywood, and that was just emanating, just like can't talk today, like fluorescent lighting, okay? It was so bright in that room, and the ideas that were being exchanged and the power that was just being instilled in all of us to take action, no pun intended, but yes, lights, camera, action, up on Latinas Acting Up. So it's this organization where we are going to lift each other. We know that we're in this constant fight for representation in Hollywood. Well, with this organization, I feel like we are going to make some noise. So let's get loud. Let's get loud. Okay, I'm not going to sing, although I do that quite often. Listen. You need to look it up on Instagram. Go to Latinas Acting Up, and I have to shout out the founding board members right now. Shout out to Gina Torres. Shout out to Constance Marie. These are iconic actresses, y'all. Shout out to Angelique Cabral, Lisa Vidal, Diana Maria Rivera. I loved her in Gordita Chronicles. Everybody who was there, from Brenda K. Starr to Dasha Polanco, Rena Valentine was there, April Lee Hernandez. I saw so many friends, and I met some new ones. So I can't wait to continue on with that momentum. I think a lot is going to come out of this, and I'm just going to share some of the messages that were shared that day because they're easy and they're actionable for you to do as well. Let's share each other's posts. If there's a show on Broadway, if there's a new TV show or an old TV show that's still in the catalog on Netflix, we've got to watch. We've got to get those numbers up. We've got to make some noise, and you can do that just with the click of your remote and the hit of the share button on Instagram. That's how we lift each other up. Let's share our contacts. Instead of this crabs in a barrel mentality where it's like mine. That's over and done with. That's old news. We're not going to win that way. We're going to win if we work together and we share our contacts and share our secrets. They're not even secrets. Let's just share tips with one another. Elevate your sisters. And you can do that right now. Just send a text message to somebody and check in on them. How's that project? How's that script? Do you need me to read your script? That's how we're going to do it. And that's the whole meaning behind Latinas Acting Up. Okay, then later on that day, it was a busy Wednesday, you guys. I don't even know how I walked in heels all day. Later on that day, I went to the National Hispanic Media Coalition's Impact Awards Gala, where there were several honorees. It was, the keynote speaker was former guest of Latinos Out Loud, Adriano Espaillat, the first Dominican U.S. Congressman, friend to our guest today. I know that. And there were honorees, including another former guest and little sis of mine, Michelle Adana. She's the host of the Cat Shop, the Bodega Cat Show. That's like running a frenzy on all the socials, where she talks to bodega cats around the city. And in doing that, she's highlighting the small business owners. So it's pretty amazing. Check that out. So she was honored. Shout out to the executive director of the NHMC, Brenda Castillo. As you know, and I've mentioned on this show, the NHMC really means a lot to me. I was part of the Latinx Screenwriters Program, and they fully produced a short film of mine that led to so many different things. It was really impactful for me that night because as Michelle Adana was accepting her honor, and I was recording because I was so proud of her, she decided to take the time out and honor me in front of all these people I couldn't help but cry my eyes out. Other people were crying because, crying's infectious sometimes. But it was so heartfelt. And I just want to thank Michelle Adana again for giving me those flowers and taking the time for honoring me. And she shouted me out and saying that I gave her her first paid gig in showbiz back in the day as part of the New York Latino Film Festival 6 years ago. So that really went far for me, and it was so self-reflective. It was a moment where I'm like, here I am on this hamster wheel, as a lot of us are, not really thinking about the gifts and like the food that I'm sharing. Like, here's some sunflower seeds, here's some hamster food, here's some water, and then I'm back on the wheel. But you never know, like, these gifts that you give out seem small to you, which at the time it did. It launched her career in show business. It made her do what she's doing today. So I'm very thankful for that moment and that all the people in the room got to share it with us. And I was so, you know me, I'm outspoken. I will speak, I'm opinion. I was like a deer in the headlights. She asked me to come up to the podium, and I was like, no, I can't. No, I shan't. And I sat down and continued to cry and have my mascara run down my face. But shout out to everybody who was there, Liani and Isabel Torres and all the amazing Latinos and Latinas that were in that room that evening. And to Felicia Mora, also of the National Hispanic Media Coalition. Okay, you guys, it is that time in the show where I introduce a guest that I'm very excited to have, because I've been seeing her in the press doing things. She was an elected official. She was Speaker of the City Council, and now she's the President and CEO of Women in Need, a nonprofit organization for women in need that we're going to talk about more. Please put your hands together for the lovely and honorable Christine Quinn.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's so good to have you.
Well, it's great to be on and get to an opportunity to talk about women in need and the impact that family homelessness is having on the Latinx community, which is significant, unfortunately.
Tell us more about Women in Need. What does this organization stand for? I mean, you went into a little bit about it, but tell us about the history and what you're doing today for these people in need.
We are the largest provider of shelter to homeless families with children. We are also the largest provider of permanent supportive housing to families with children. And what most people don't know, and I'll be honest, I didn't know it till I got this job, and I had been an elected official, so I should have known it. Close to 70% of the people in shelter in New York City are families with children.
Wow.
Why don't we know that? Because the mainstream media, when they cover homelessness, they find a picture of a disheveled homeless man of color, put it on the cover of the New York Post to frighten us and to rip us apart. And we want to make sure single homeless men get services, but also we need to make sure what we call the forgotten face of homelessness, the mom with a 5-year-old child, a working mom with a 5-year-old child, that they get the attention that is needed. And one of the things we do at our shelters is provide, through raising private funds, holistic wraparound services. We call it the way to win, because we want to make sure when somebody leaves our shelter, they don't come back. Or when they come back, they're a volunteer.
Oh, great.
And we do a look back every year. And we found that a year out, 93% of the people we placed in permanent housing are still living independently. They're not in shelter.
Amazing.
And 2 years out, it's 92%. And one of the ways we do, I think one of the ways we're so successful is we have what we call an income building program, not a job training program, because our moms were like, we're working, we're just not making enough money.
Right.
So we train towards industries that have vacancies and industries where our moms are interested. So right now, for example, we have a barista training program, but then we're connected to Goldman Sachs and other corporations, and the baristas are working in the corporate cafeterias, which is a higher salary than if you were like at Starbucks or Joe's or whatever.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And for our and we have 16 shelters in the 5 boroughs. We have 5 buildings that are permanent housing, and then 200 apartments that we rent as permanent housing.
That's incredible. How can someone listening or watching who knows either themselves or knows someone who's in need, how can they find out more information on this, or how easy or hard is the process to get housing?
So go to our website, winnyc2ns.org, and also give a contribution. To get into shelter, you have to go through the city's intake process. It's called PATH. And then you get sent to a shelter. 1 in 10 get sent to us, and then to other providers. I will tell you, and I hate to say this, but the intake process the city has is not easy. And it's designed really to push you away. So when you go to the path, and there's only one in the Bronx, when you go, the people you meet with aren't called social workers, they're not called caseworkers, they're called fraud investigators. So right away,
Gosh.
exactly.
That's such a negative thing to start with.
Completely. And starts with the tone that somehow this mom who's shown up there with her kids, carrying her stuff in hefty bags, somehow that she's a liar. And they will literally say, like, you were living with your aunt. Why'd she kick you out? She doesn't love you? Let's call your aunt. So we are doing an advocacy campaign around making PATH more humane, more trauma informed, a place that's really designed to help the families. Because we found with our clients, and since we house 10% or more of all the homeless families, what we see is statistically significant. On average, our moms go through intake 4 times. They know they're homeless. They know they don't have any other options. So why are we putting them through all of these unnecessary steps and all of this unnecessary, trauma? And one of the things we do at Win, in addition to delivering social services, is we take the stories of our moms and the families and turn that into advocacy and political action, because we want to honor what they tell us, honor their bravery by trying to change the conditions that lead to family homelessness in the city.
That's really a strategic point, like just a way to do this. It reminds me a little, Christine, I volunteered for a long time with an organization you may be familiar with, the Violence Intervention Program.
I was just with their executive director at a conference in upstate. Yeah, terrific.
I was on their board of directors.
Oh, great.
I learned so much about domestic violence and the strikes against these women before they even start the process. We were advocates at the time for more bilingual police officers to show up to the scene. And our ED at the time, Cecilia Gaston, was everywhere just trying to advocate for the need for either pamphlets that we can leave with these women, because they found that there was a high percentage of Spanish speaking women that don't even know how to move forward from beyond the violence that they were experiencing at home and what to do. So I love hearing that these resources and you're doing work to make these resources more attainable and with less of a negative connotation to them.
And one of the other things we do a lot of is financial literacy, because 80% of the moms at Win are domestic violence survivors. One thing that happens in domestic violence that people don't always recognize is financial control. The batterer won't let you have a credit card, or they'll run up a huge balance and give you bad credit. So when moms leave and they're now going to be supporting their household and having to pay Con Ed and this and that and the other thing, we want to make sure they leave with their credit as sound as they can and a real understanding about paying bills, because they may have gone from their parents' house to the batterer's house, and the batterer may never have allowed them to even pay a bill or see the bill. And we try to really, in our wraparound services, address things like that. We also really focus on the children, because the factor that is most significant in whether you're going to be a homeless adult is if you were a homeless child. And that homelessness is a trauma for that child. And if you don't address trauma, it just grows and festers and will eat you alive. And so we have a camp all summer, and every school break, it's a STEM-based camp for the children. We do a lot of murals and painting and art therapy. It has been proven that art and play, just free play on a playground, can help children process trauma and work through it. We're doing murals. We did a mural at one of our sites, and there's this part of it is where you came from, your home before. The middle is shelter. The third part is where you're going when you're going to move out. And the bigger kids paint, the little kids clean the brushes. But over here, where they left, you might see a cat or a hamster, because they can't take their pets with them. But over the middle, the shelter part, they wanted a crown. So everybody knew that being in shelter wasn't bad, that it was a good place. And that type of ability to freely express yourself is baked into our camp, into our recreation, into our homework help, into our child care. And it really is making a difference in helping these kids. Because, look, they're bullied in school. And we want them to have an ability to have a sense of community where they're really affirmed and lifted up for all that they're helping their moms and their dads go through.
Yeah, art is therapy.
Oh, totally.
I just went to my kids' art exhibit
Oh,
last night.
great.
And I'm analyzing their art because it does speak to me
Yep.
about their happiness
Mhm.
and, how good of a job I'm doing, if I may say so myself.
Good for you.
Okay, they're 9 and 6 and
Boys or girls?
2 boys.
Okay.
My little one, so when my podcast won its last award,
Mhm.
my little one came home with like a drawing
Oh.
and had a bunch of stick figures. I'm like, first of all, thank you for making mommy a stick figure. Thank you. Because, I'm working on it.
Yeah.
And the mommy stick figure was holding something.
Oh,
I
it was
couldn't
your
make it out.
award.
I was like, Benjamin, what is that? He's like,
that's
Mom, that's your
great.
trophy.
That's great.
And I'm like, this is he sees my hard work.
Yeah, that's great.
I am teaching him work ethic, and I didn't even know it.
That's great.
And just the prestige,
Yeah.
the honor of receiving an award
Yeah.
and being recognized for the hard work.
Yeah.
So what you're doing is amazing.
One of the things we do around art is everything we do is trauma informed.
Okay.
So we don't have any coloring books because coloring books are about staying in the lines. You're
Totally.
right or you're wrong. It's somebody else's rules. We just have white paper and markers and crayons, and you go to town and you draw whatever you want to draw. And like with the children, we never call it shelter. We call it transitional housing. So they know they're going somewhere. They're not stuck.
Yes.
They're moving. And little things like that really add up and make a difference. Over the past, I guess, 2 years now, or year and a half, we've had a lot of migrant families because as the governor of Texas, very unceremoniously put people on buses, not even knowing where they were going. At a point, we had as many as 1,000 migrants in our shelter. And so one of the things we did was team up with a group, the New York Legal Assistance Group, and we've created a legal clinic for the families. We still have about 250 going through it. We're kind of the social workers, they're the lawyers to help people get some kind of a legal status so they could get food stamps, they could get benefits, they could get working papers. And it's been a real gift to our system that we've had these folks with us who are so desperate to be Americans, so hardworking, so
Just trying to live the dream.
Just trying to live the dream. I mean, we have people who walked to America. I don't like walking to the subway. You know what I mean? If it's not nice out, and they walked to America.
Oh my goodness.
So and we actually had our traditional families, if you will, really embrace them. We had one mom who went in her closet. How many clothes could she have, right, in her closet and shelter? Took out the stuff she didn't need, put it in a box, went around the shelter, collected other clothes, and then left it in the lobby for her new neighbors.
Oh.
So, and we also had a lot of companies donate coats and boots because folks literally came in like flip-flops and t-shirts. They went to Texas. They didn't prepare, for a winter. And really the city rallied to help them, which the city always does. But whenever it happens, you're just reminded of how great New Yorkers are.
Well, okay, so Wynn has a gala coming up.
Yes, next week, May 7th.
Yeah, let's talk about that and how people can, donate or tell us about this gala.
So we once a year have a gala where we honor folks. We're honoring Bank of America, Arrow Security, they're a company we work with, and Larry Silverstein, the developer who rebuilt the World Trade Centers. And we have tickets left. It's a big room. We'll have like 700 to 800 people. We'll also hear, this is the best part, from a client or a former client. This evening, we're going to hear from a woman who, her and her family were with us in shelter, and now she works for us in our permanent housing building. Yeah.
What an opportunity.
Exactly. We're
Yeah.
really, really looking forward to it.
That's so great.
Yeah.
Going back to VIP, we did something similar called the Beauty of Survival.
Oh, wow. That's
where
powerful.
it was beyond powerful. It really put things in perspective, and I had a newfound appreciation and
Yeah.
like for the struggle. But basically, some of the women were selected to get head-to-toe makeovers.
Oh, nice.
Then we had a well-known photographer come and take beautiful
Nice.
photographs that were on display at the
Oh,
gala.
nice, nice. We
So-
recently did an event. We have two women who had been in shelter and are now living independently, who are making their living as hair braiders. And we also had a hair braider who is in shelter right now. And we did an evening of hair braiding for the
Oh,
girls. Yeah.
I would love to go.
Okay.
I braided my hair one summer. I loved it. It was
Yep.
like the best thing
Well,
ever.
we will let you know. let you
Okay,
know.
totally.
And we
'cause I
got
need help with
cosmetics
this.
donated and blah, blah, blah. And it's, important that all moms who are so busy and so put upon and have moments where they're taken care of and they're
Yes.
pampered. And you can't kind of
Yes.
forget that just because somebody is in a challenging situation. They need it even more.
Listen, as a mom of two, there's just times where like I
Right.
feel like I'm at the bottom,
Right.
beat up, and there's all these women in these very
Yep.
sad predicaments
Yep.
and situations
Yep.
that a little bit of love goes a long way.
A long way. And the news, and I understand it, they cover a lot when there's protests against homeless shelters. But we've done polling. The vast majority of New Yorkers want to help the homeless. They want more done.
Yeah.
But it's easy to internalize the hatred that gets put out there. So these moments of love, whether it's a hair braiding event, whether it's getting free cosmetics, whether it's, a really great principal who's there at the door to welcome the migrant children in, they're really important to remind homeless families that there are people pulling for them
Yeah.
who've never met them
Yeah.
and may never meet them, but they want the best for them.
Right.
And that's why, like, people say, do you take donated clothes? We only take new clothes
Okay.
because, I think places that do used, I'm not criticizing them, but we want to make sure people get new clothes. We have one challenge where we'll have like a real retailer want to give us like a palette of blue shirts, polo shirts. I'm like, I can't have all the boys wearing the same shirt. So, but we're working through that. We actually had a great meeting with a foundation just yesterday, and they're going to give us money so we can buy gift cards. So then mom can just go shopping. Exactly.
Oh, that's so lovely.
Yeah,
Love
yeah,
that.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of all this gift giving, a recent gift came in from Governor Kathy Hochul,
Absolutely.
which is a big win.
Yes.
See what I did there?
Exactly.
Tell us about this big win.
So we in New York City, and the federal government has some too, God willing that he doesn't cut them, but housing vouchers, right? So if you're leaving shelter, you get a housing voucher. The housing voucher pays 70% of your rent. You pay 30%. But the state doesn't have one. So we were pushing the governor because New York is one of the states in the union with the highest childhood poverty rate. That's a disgrace.
Mm-hmm.
So she created, the governor, a commission to come out with recommendations on what to do about childhood poverty. One of their top recommendations was create a state housing voucher to augment the local ones and the federal ones. And for the first year, we got an allocation from the governor of $50 million.
Yes,
Yeah.
wepa.
And we're very, very grateful to the governor, also to Speaker Carl Hastie, to Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins, but also we had 6 unions sign a letter. The entire congressional delegation wrote to the governor. Speaker Adrienne Adams wrote to the governor. We had 2,500 telephone calls into the governor. It became a real campaign where people really rallied to get this resource. And I'm very grateful. It's a tough time to be adding to the budget because the governor doesn't know what's going to happen federally, but we're very grateful that she's taken this big step forward.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I
It was a
can't-
real team effort.
I can't wait to hear about all the people that will benefit
Yeah,
from this
and the
program.
children.
And the children.
Yeah.
Okay, I would like to dive into a little more personal
Okay.
stuff,
Okay.
if we can.
Yes, sure.
I just want to hear more about how you got here. Did you always want a career in politics, and then how did you segue into philanthropy? Tell me about your upbringing and where you're from.
So I grew up on Long Island in Glen Cove, and both of my parents had grown up in the city. So in my mind, like, Long Island was a way station. You know what I mean? You had to get back to the city. And my late father said I was cursed with clarity. The only thing I ever wanted to do was politics, social change, government. he was an electrical engineer and my mother was a social worker. They didn't really know from government and politics. So he was like, be an accountant. I was like, no, be a lawyer. No. So I got a job as an administrative assistant to a group. This was in the late 80s, the Friends of Channel 13. They did fundraising for public radio. I lied.
The telethon.
Exactly.
Of
right,
course.
right.
You get the tote bag.
Exactly. It got the umbrella. So I lied. I said I could type. And I used it to get an apartment, to be able to pay the rent, to get an apartment in the city. And I just read the newspapers. And as I saw names of important people, famous people, people who were doing social movement work, I would note it and I'd find them and I'd call them. And I would ask them if they would have coffee with me.
Oh, wow.
And this was before, Insta and DMing people and tweeting at people or whatever. And I kind of networked my way into a job as a housing organizer. And in that capacity in the early 90s, I met Tom Duane, who was a big tenant organizer running for city council. And I ended up running his campaign, becoming his chief of staff.
Wow.
Then when he got elected to the state senate, I ran and took his city council seat.
Oh.
So, and then ran for speaker and won, even though we were kind of the dark horse in the race and no one thought we were going to win. Then ran for mayor, which didn't work out as much. But, I knew when leaving government, I didn't want to be a lobbyist. I didn't want to work in corporate America, that I wanted to continue to do organizing and social change work. I wanted to work for a group that was based in the city, had an urban focus, had a women's focus, did social services and advocacy, not one or the other. And I was lucky. I got a fellowship at the Kennedy School for part of the time. And a friend called and said, a headhunter just called me. They're looking for a new head of Women in Need. Should I give them your name? And I said, absolutely. And that was March. And the process was incredibly ridiculous and went on till August. But that fall, I started as the new CEO and I've been here. It'll be 10 years in November.
Wow,
Yeah,
Christine.
Yeah.
What a story.
Yeah, no, and I'm very lucky. I mean, this job checked all the boxes. And, all those boxes I had, there weren't going to be a ton of jobs that fit in them. And I really feel I loved being an elected official. It was great. And the people who work in government are a special breed. And I loved it. But I really feel very lucky because some people leave government and don't find the ability to continue to be able to serve.
Yeah.
And I've been able to find the ability to continue to serve. And that really is a great gift.
Hearing your trajectory is very inspiring.
Oh, thank you.
The power of networking.
Yep. Oh, totally. And also, when I was running for speaker, people would go out of their way, people who were supporting other candidates, to tell me how I wasn't going to win.
Mm.
There's that phrase, movers and shakers. My friend Christine McLaughlin used to call them movers and drainers.
Oh.
And my team and I just decided we weren't going to listen to anybody else.
Yeah.
We were going to run. We were going to have a plan.
Yeah.
We were going to stick to the plan. We were going to have some fun, and we were going to work harder than ever, than anybody else, because there's no greater regret than, if I did it a little bit, if I worked a little harder. And we stuck by those things and ended up winning. And you just can't, because the thing is, people tell you what you can't do because they're afraid of doing it.
Yeah.
And they don't want anybody else to succeed because it'll just point out how they haven't succeeded. And when you run for speaker of the city council, it's different than running for like a council seat. So the political leaders, county leaders, et cetera, have a big role in the process. And when I ran in 2005, a man by the name of, he's deceased now, Tom Manton, was the Queens county leader. And he was very powerful in the process because everyone in Queens said, you pick, we're going to go for that candidate. We're going to stay as a group. So even though it wasn't the biggest borough, he had the most votes. And when I was running, he was very sick and he knew he didn't have a lot of time. And in 1986, he had been on the city council and he had promised advocates he would vote for the gay rights bill. But the organizers who were against the gay rights bill brought his father and his priest and put them in the front row. And he voted no. And people were outraged. And when I went out to see him at his law firm and he told me he and the county were supporting me, I said, thank you so much for what you've done for me and my family. And he, as I are Catholic, and he said, will you grant me absolution? And I knew what he meant. He was now going to make the first woman and first LGBT person speaker. And it was a way for him to make up for what he had done and make a clean slate before he went and met his maker. And I tell that story because if you listen to people tell you what you can't do, you limit yourself, but you don't know who else you're limiting. If I hadn't run, Tom might not have had that opportunity, and he needed it. And if you limit yourself, you don't know the damage you're doing. You don't know what you're not giving to other people who need it.
I saw you in the news. I saw you in the press. I remember your mayoral run. And I have to tell you, as a woman, again, it was very inspiring.
Thank you. Thank you.
You were doing something that hadn't been done before.
Thank you.
That in and of itself tells me that I can also be
Right,
a leader.
absolutely.
I can make change.
Yep, be a
in
Webby
life.
winner.
Nominee.
Not
yet
soon
a winner,
to be winner.
but signal winner 2 times.
Yay!
I'm a flex. You see that? So, okay, this career of yours just has been it's like an upwards hill. So I'm sure it's been a battle at times too. Can you share with us some of the obstacles that you face and how you combated them? Because I think the LOLeros, no matter what your career is, if you're still in school, there are these obstacles. And as a woman, sometimes like we have a couple more strikes against us. What's your philosophy on that in life?
So I was in a meeting once when I was speaker, and it was me and a couple of gentlemen and my chief of staff, who was a man. So we're in this meeting, and they're not talking to me. They're not even looking at me. They're only talking to Chuck, the chief of staff. So I went in my tote bag, and I took out a file, and I started editing a document. And they were like, I said, well, you seem to only want to talk to him, even though I'm the speaker, and I don't care. But I'm not going to waste my time. I might as well get something done.
Wow.
And then we had another meeting where a union leader came in, and he said, I just wanted to tell you about a bill we're supporting in Albany. I'd like your support. Blah, 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 blah. Benefits for married couples. This was before gay marriage. I said, well, will that cover domestic partners? And he said, no, but I don't have a problem with it. And I said, well, you know what problem you do have? You don't know your audience. So don't come in here and ask me to help you pass a bill that's going to leave my community out.
Right.
That meeting was over. When marriage equality ramped up in 2008, a little bit later than that, in like 2010, 2011, that union was on the barricades with us. Nice. So you have to just be true to yourself, be brave, say what's on your mind. And being brave doesn't mean not having fear. People who are brave have fear, but do it anyway. And you know what? You're going to play it over in your mind 100 times. But if you don't say it, if you don't do it, you're going to play that over in your mind 300 times. So just do it.
Are you listening? Yep. I love that so much. Put that on a t-shirt.
There you go.
There is fear in bravery.
Yeah. I mean, if you didn't have to, if you weren't fearful, they wouldn't call it bravery. Right. And, people talk about taking a leap of faith. The thing about taking a leap of faith is you don't know if there's a ledge underneath you. You just go. And more often than not, it works out.
I left a very stable corporate career.
Yeah.
I had my firstborn, and I like to tell people he was growing a pair and so was I. I grew a pair and I left.
Yeah.
I took my maternity leave and I never went back.
Good for you.
And I said, I'm going to pursue my dreams of comedy and showbiz and doing it for us mixed breed Latinas out there, okay? And I look back sometimes and I was scared.
I bet, of course. Okay?
I left insurance.
Yeah, right.
401k.
Right.
Contributions, an office, perks, a corporate card.
Yeah.
A bunch of stuff. But I was liberated.
Yeah.
I am so proud of that decision today.
Yeah.
And I am absorbing this energy because it also makes me feel like I made the right decision.
And totally. And look what you did for your sons. They now know they can make brave career decisions. They don't have to stay in a job just because it checks the boxes that society thinks a job should check. And that, again, if you hadn't done that, those boys wouldn't get that message and they would have lost out. Not just you, they would have lost out.
Right. I feel like I instilled even more work ethic and them knowing
Absolutely.
that I'm working the hardest I ever worked
I'm
in my
sure.
corporate days.
I'm sure.
I would leave the office and go about
Right.
my life, you know?
Right.
But now the office for me is 24/7,
Right.
365.
There you go.
Okay, there are some aspiring politician turned philanthropists out there listening and watching. If you had a younger version of you in front of you right now, what are some words of advice that you would have for her?
Do take your makeup off every night. It really does make a difference, and the sunscreen matters. It really does. But my other advice would be not to worry so much. It really, things work out. As long as you work hard and you show up and you're honest, things will work out. So don't worry so much. Have more fun in your work. Make sure your work is fun and you're having fun when you're doing it. And if you want to get involved in politics or social change or political type work, get involved at the neighborhood. Join your block association, join your tennis association, join the community board, the Democratic Club. And nowadays in the city, there's Democratic clubs, not just by neighborhood, by community, LGBT ones, Latinx ones, African American ones, and get involved. It will really change how you see the city, but also help you meet people and gain skills that'll be applicable in politics. And the head of a block association or a tennis association, that's an endorsement that's more important on a campaign than a contribution from a big donor.
Oh, wow.
Because you can affect the people in your group and get them to support an elected official. And don't forget, this June, there's New York City elections, not just mayor, but comptroller, borough president, and the majority of the city council is term limited out. So you have an opportunity to really elect a significant part of the city council. And I'm a little nervous because a lot of women are term limiting out. And this past city council has been the first time ever a majority women. And we want to make sure we don't lose it. We keep that going. Yeah.
We just interviewed Borough President Antonio Reynosa.
Oh, he's a doll. He's a big supporter of ours.
Great.
He's so great.
So
Did he show you a picture of his son by any chance?
Oh, it was on his desk.
Mini-me.
Yeah.
It is mini-me.
Totally mini him.
Oh my God, it's hysterical.
And he's so involved. He brings him to school every morning.
Yeah. He went to college with our chief program officer, who's also a Dominicana, and they are good friends. Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a small world.
It is. It is.
Well, thank you so much for
your
time.
This is fun. We'll have to have you come back.
I would love to.
Okay, good.
We are here
We'll
to
go
support.
to we'll do it out at a shelter.
Yes.
That would be fun. You can meet some of the moms.
I would love to meet
Great.
the other moms.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Can you tell the LOLeros how to follow the organization on social?
Absolutely. So please follow us on every platform. It's Win NYC. Also, our website is winnyc.org. We need donations. We need diapers. We need baby wipes. We need volunteers. We need money. We need you, as was said, to share our Insta, to like our posts. That's how we get the message out nowadays. Gracias.
Thank you, Christine Quinn. Thank you, Sky here. Thank you, Eddie in the background.
Thank you, Eddie.
Thank you, Eddie. LOLeros, this has been another episode of Latinos Out Loud. Thank you so much. Please be sure to follow us at We Are Latinos Out Loud. We have a website, one of those things. It's wearelatinosOutloud.co. And you could follow me at Rachel La Loca, RACHEL La Loca. You could also give us a call, no big whoop, 978 Latinos. That's the number.
Oh, that's great.
And check us out on YouTube. Thank you, Christine Quinn. I feel like I have a new friend here.
Yes.
This is so exciting. I've been watching this woman for so long advocate for the community, and here I am in her presence. It's a moment. Thanks again for tuning in. I'll catch you on the next episode. On that note, we out.
It's the Latinos Out Loud podcast. Latinos.